Hello everybody, here we are today talking about every team's point differential over the course of this season compared to last season, talking about who rose and who fell. So before we get started with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So we're going to try to go rapid fire with this because we are talking about 32 teams. So the team that ended up having the biggest drop off from points from one season to the next was the New Jersey Devils, as they had 112 points in the 2023 campaign, and then they dropped 81 points in the 2021 campaign. So they ended up dropping 31 points and of course did not make the playoffs. And right after them was the Boston Bruins, as they went from winning the President's Trophy with 135 points to falling to 109 points. I say falling, but they nearly won their division and still had a really good year. They made the playoffs once again, but they weren't able to get a deep run like they wanted to. Still a really good year. Let's not act like falling from 135 points to 109 is a bad thing, just something that did happen. And then you have the Seattle Kraken, who went from 100 points to 81 points, which is a 19-point difference. And the difference for them was the fact they were not able to make the playoffs. Dave Hextall was fired. Seattle hoping to be one of those teams that can bounce back up again, as from year one to year two as a franchise, they had a totally big differential, as they're probably the best in the league in that category. We'll see what happens. And unfortunately for the Minnesota Wild, they are after the Kraken, as they went from 103 points to 87 points. That is a 16-point differential for Minnesota, much like Seattle. For a team that had that big of a drop-off, even though the Wild were dealing with a lot of injuries, doesn't matter because they weren't able to make the playoffs, and that is unfortunate for them, as they had been able to do so in recent years, hoping to be a team that again bounces back with a healthier roster possibly this season. And then you have the San Jose Sharks, which are kind of a classic case of a team that didn't fall a whole lot because there wasn't much further they could fall, as they went from 60 points to 47 points, a really bad year. Quinn ended up getting fired as their head coach. They landed the first overall pick. Hopefully they are a riser. Even if they got to like 60, 65 points this year, their fans would probably be happy, as they would still secure a top 4 pick and be a little bit more enjoyable to watch. Pretty bad year, one of their worst years in franchise history. We will see what comes for this year. And then it's the Vegas Golden Knights, who fall from 111 points to 98 points, as it is a 13-point drop-off for the previous Stanley Cup winners. Although we all know, we've talked about it a lot on this channel, they had the most man games lost to injury this season. Veteran group that has been dealing with a lot of long playoff runs in recent years, probably adding to the odds of them getting injured. And the fact that Mark Stone is unfortunately injured a lot these days. But yeah, Vegas dropped off, and they also didn't win the championship. So a year that is unfortunate. The offseason's kind of been worse for them as well too. Really curious to see how they'll perform as they continue to lose pieces from their championship roster. The Calgary Flames went from 93 points to 81 points, 12-point differential. They didn't make the playoffs, and they're going to be a team that I feel a little bit confused about, because I like some of the pieces that they've got going into the year, and I don't exactly know how they're going to perform. I don't think that they'll get 93 points this season or higher. Kind of wondering where they'll be. But yeah, the Toronto Maple Leafs dropped 9 points as they went from 111 to 102. They end up seeing Sheldon Keefe get fired, as they failed to make it deep into the playoffs yet again. Not much to say here. Another 100-plus point season for Toronto that once again ends in the first round. It's kind of a normal thing. The Ottawa Senators drop 8 points as they go from 86 points to 78 points. This was a big blow though, because they were near a wildcard spot kind of last year. This year they weren't. DJ Smith ends up getting fired. The Sens are once again searching for answers, trying to get back in the playoffs. They recently traded Jacob Chikrin. They ended up getting Omar Knet. I don't know. I'm hoping that they will make the playoffs, but we are going to be watching to see if things actually change. The Chicago Blackhawks went from 59 points to 52 points, so 7-point drop off for them. They were meant to be a bad team. They were a bad team, but they of course had Connor Bedard winning the Calder Trophy and are looking like a side that this upcoming season should probably crack the 60-point mark for the year, much like San Jose. They just want to probably secure a top 4 pick if they could and build up some of these younger players. But this year was one of their worst years in franchise history. It's okay though. The Buffalo Sabres dropped off 7 points, going from 91 to 84. Don Granato was fired, and they went from being a possible young side, scoring a lot of goals, to maybe making it to the playoffs, to once again their playoff drought extending. Talked about that in a recent video where I will be putting it out. I'm not exactly sure which one's coming out first, but for the Sabres, more heartbreak for their fans, as I feel like Buffalo just needs to hug the fans. They just need somebody to listen to them talk about all the horrible things that have happened in their hockey world over the past 10 plus years. The Los Angeles Kings dropped 5 points as they went from 104 to 99. Doesn't really matter though, because they once again made the playoffs. What does matter is they got stuck into running into that brick wall that is the Edmonton Oilers in the first round. They couldn't care if they make it as an 87-point team as long as they get out of the first round. And I think at this point, they wanted to come against Edmonton, because then they could say, well, at least we got it to happen one time. I don't know. LA is going to be a team to watch out for next year, where I think, I don't want to say they're going to regress, a whole lot, but this offseason was not necessarily kind to them, and I'm not just very thrilled with some of the things they've done. The Pittsburgh Penguins dropped off 3 points as they went from 91 points to 88. If I did my math correctly there real quick, I did. And with this is actually really discouraging because of the fact that they ended up trading it Erik Karlsson, who had won the Norris. They've got Crosby. They've got, all these names. And the season ended with them failing to make playoffs yet again. They traded away Jake Gensel. I don't know. Again, is this going to be a team that falls into oblivion a little bit or fades into obscurity? We're going to see this year again, though. Should they probably get 80 points on the year, hopefully? Could they be a better team? For Pittsburgh fans, they better hope so. The Colorado Avalanche dropped 2 points. Not really a difference at all as they go from 109 to 107. But what's important is they fail to make it deep into the playoffs again as they are knocked out early. And this team got a lot of things going on right now. Some financial issues with how they're going to structure their roster. They've got the whole Valeri Nichushkin incident, which is going to be a problem for them. And they are trying to find their footing in a landscape where other teams are going to be trying to get on the up and up as they are dealing with money issues. Could we see them regress again further this year? I don't know. I mean, I feel like they should be a team that ends up getting 100 points on the year. So if it is a drop-off, it shouldn't be too steep, but we will see. The Carolina Hurricanes dropped 2 points as well as they went from 113 points to 111 points. Looking at this team, yeah, they ended up, again, having another good year, kind of like clockwork, right? But failing to make it to where they want to go. And this team is going to look a lot different from this season to next season. And I don't really know how that all will play out for them as they end up giving Slavin that extension. But some other guys are going to be leaving or already gone thanks to free agency and all that. Carolina feels like a lock to get over 100 points next year. Are they going to be dropping off from 111 points? That's up for you to decide. And then the only team to stay consistent and have the exact amount of points that they had the season prior to this one was the Tampa Bay Lightning as they finished with 98 once again. But once again, our team ended up getting knocked out in the first round after being a Stanley Cup finalist 3 years in a row. They lost Steven Stamkos. They ended up getting Jake Gensel, or trading for him, signing him an extension. They signed Victor Hedman an extension, all that good stuff. Tampa Bay, are they going to be cracking in the 100-plus point mark again? Are they going to be around the mark? I feel like they probably should be a playoff team again as they still have an aging roster, but they are fighting father time by signing these guys to big deals and trying to maintain their consistency. And then the Anaheim Ducks are a team that gained a point as they went from 58 points to 59 points. I don't know how that feels possible because I feel like this season was so much worse for the team. At least when I was looking at them, the fact that they drew or took so many penalties, I guess I should say, a lot of penalties this year. They weren't good. They have a lot of young guys that they're hoping to do better than what they did. They also dealt with some other things. Like Zegras did not have a good year. It is what it is. Anaheim being 1 point better just seems shocking to me, and I think I talked about that earlier in the year when the season was kind of wrapping up for them, but it just blows my mind that they actually improved, even though it was barely. The New York Islanders improved by 0.2 as they went from 93 points to 94 points. Lane Lambert was fired. The team was kind of streaky with Patrick Waugh. They made it to the playoffs and then at points got manhandled by the Carolina Hurricanes. They're back again, trying to be a playoff team once again, hoping that maybe this time things will actually go better, as it wasn't that long ago they were winning in the postseason and going on deep runs. They're a little bit older, a little bit more experienced. Take that which way you want, I guess, if you will, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Feels like a team that could be stuck in the 90s range, in the 80s range. Maybe they're going to go higher 90s this year. Maybe they'll go lower 90s. That is, again, something that you get to pick. The Dallas Stars improved by 5 points as they went from 108 points to 113 points, won a division title, and were on the verge of making it on, again, another march to the Stanley Cup final. But it does come up short, and that is, again, the way she goes as they lose to the Edmonton Oilers. A good year for Dallas. Still not what they want as they are trying to win the Stanley Cup. They've got so many things going for them with younger players, veteran players, good goaltending, the fact that they have younger players that haven't even cracked it in the NHL yet, but are probably going to be good NHL players. For Dallas, I'd say that they almost feel like a lock to maybe be right around that 110-point range. Maybe they fall off, but there is no way they fall above 100 or fall below 105 points on the year. I'm not a gambling man, so I won't take that to heart too much, but maybe if you're feeling a little bit comfortable, put like $1 on it. I don't really know. Please don't do it. But if you are somebody that does, yeah, again, do what you want. And then you have the Columbus Blue Jackets, who ended up going from 59 points to 66, so an improvement of 7 points. Still a weird year, though, as you had Mike Babcock getting fired, Jarmo Kekalainen getting fired. You had Elvis requesting a trade. You have Patrick Laine requesting a trade. But there are some things that are going right for them. A lot of those younger guys are towards the top end for their goal scoring. Don't exactly know what this season is going to bring for them. Could they finish bottom of the Metro yet again? Probably. I don't know. Metro is weird. Columbus is weird. I feel like they probably will be in the basement yet again, but maybe, just maybe, things will be better in terms of the atmosphere. It is weird because this team went from having some hope to being back into the basement before you even knew it. It basically stayed there, but maybe, just maybe, 70 points could be there for them. The Nashville Predators also improved by 7 points as they went from 92 to 99 as they were able to get back in the postseason under Barry Trotz in his first year. Part of it wasn't thanks to the fact that they had an absolute heater. They didn't do anything come playoff time, but boy, oh boy, has free agency been kind to them. Look out for them this year. Maybe they improve. I forgot the Arizona Coyotes as they went from 70 points to 77, so they improved by 7 as well. Looking at this team, at one point they looked like they could have been a fringe wildcard team. Then they just absolutely fell apart. This season is about as bad as it can get for any team, right? Even if you are the worst team in the league, you're probably thankful if you're a fan of the Sharks because they're staying in San Jose. Arizona is going to Utah. They're already there. And the team may not be coming back, or we might not ever get a team in Arizona yet again, as they are struggling to have a new owner. They're trying to find a stadium. All these things. Hate to see it, but at least they improved in their final year. Then you had the New York Rangers improve by 7 points as they went from 107 to 114 as they claimed the President's Trophy. They weren't able to go on to the Stanley Cup Final, but they were able to make it to the Eastern Conference Final where they fell to the Florida Panthers. A good year for New York. Not the way they wanted it to end, especially with the anniversary of the 94 team, but another good run. And I don't exactly know what you make of it, as it was a good year. I thought they were going to regress. Instead, they moved forward. Will they regress this season? Possibly. But 2 trips to the Eastern Conference Final in 3 years. Maybe they make it 3 out of 4, and maybe this time they actually break down the door and get that championship. Montreal Canadiens improved by 8 points as they went from 68 points to 76 points. Still, again, not making it to the playoffs, but they ended up signing Uri Slafkovsky to a big deal after he had a 50-point season and are a team that has those younger players that are already proven and is getting more and more players that are younger. They're going to try to make that jump. Currently, I think a lot of people expect them to be towards the bottom of the Atlantic, and that is understandable. But with a team like Tampa Bay, certainly in the coming years, are they going to drop off a bit? Like some other teams that are dealing with some losses, Florida, are they going to drop off a little bit? Not saying they're going to be in the bottom of the Atlantic in the next year or two. We'll see, but in the coming years, next 2 years, especially for the Habs, as they develop more of this young talent, they're going to be more fierce, hopefully, and get back to being in that playoff conversation. The Washington Capitals went from 80 points to 91, so they improved by 11, near the top of the league, when I really did not see this team going anywhere near the playoffs. Ovi was really cold. The power play was atrocious. They weren't scoring goals, but they made it. And guess what? They ended up getting Pierre-Luc Dubois. They ended up getting Andrew Mangiapane, Logan Thompson. They got Jacob Chikrin. They signed Matt Roy to a deal. This could be a team that going into this season could take another step forward and be a playoff team once again. I don't know, as they do have a lot of older players on this roster that could be, ice cold. Maybe they don't get to where they're winning a lot of one-score games. But for Washington to be able to have the year that they did last year, kudos to them to getting back to the postseason. They were swept in the first round, but getting back there was just enough for me. The Red Wings also improved by 11 points as they went from 80 points to 91 points. But they aren't happy, unlike the Washington Capitals, because A, they didn't make the playoffs, and B, they're a team that realistically should have. They ended up trading to get Patrick Kane. They've got all these young players that are exciting. They've gone out in recent years and signed veteran players to try to get this team ready to make a playoff push, and it hasn't mounted into anything just yet. Yeah, I know Dylan Larkin was hurt towards the end of the year. They lost like 7 of those 8 games that he was out, but you can't keep making excuses for this team year in and year out. I do think next year especially, they should have realistic expectations of making it at least as a wildcard team. Whether or not they do so, I don't know. But if they miss next year and the year after that, again, serious concerns for this team. I'd like to say maybe around the 95-point mark for this upcoming season, if not more. Going to be weird because Detroit, they could be really good, but Detroit could also be really bad. And then the St. Louis Blues also improved by 11 points as they end up going from 81 points to 92 points. Did I say that right? Yes, I did. Problem is, it's not good enough to make it to the playoffs again. They fire Craig Berube. You have no idea exactly what they're trying to do here. They did sign Pavel Buchnevich, I believe, to a long-term extension the other day. St. Louis fans, I guess just cherish the 2019 Cup and just try to enjoy the players that are on your roster right now. Because again, are they going to be a team that makes the postseason? And then if they get in, are they going to do anything? I don't know. But this is a fun time for St. Louis, even though it may not be for their fans. And then the Philadelphia Flyers, one of the teams that rose the most in the league over the course of the season, probably 5th or 4th most in the entire league, as you go from 75 points to 87 points. But the fans, you already know, are not happy. They were on the verge of being in the playoffs. They were really a lock. And then they just, plummeted. It's like a firework that ended up not going off as we are post 4th of July. You were expecting something grand as they were surprising you, and guess what? They ran out of steam and they didn't get the job done. This team next year, do they rise, do they fall? Matvei Michkov is supposedly going to be there on the roster. Carter Hart, probably gone. And then you're going to be seeing some other pieces for this group. Philly, are they in? Are they out? Again, Flyers fans, you tell me. Then you have the Winnipeg Jets, were the team that rose the 3rd most in the league as they went from 95 points to 110. Connor Hellebuck won the Vezina. They had a great year until they ran into the buzzsaw of the Colorado Avalanche in the postseason. Winnipeg, good year, contending for the Central Division. Are they going to back it up next season? I don't know. But I do know that for a team that hadn't really done a whole lot in recent years, even having a really good regular season like that was probably really welcome for their fans. But now it's time to say, guys, we're getting a little bit older. Let's go out there and do something come playoff time. And then the Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, ended up being the team that rose the most, second most, I should say, in the league, as they rose 18 points from 92 points to 110, won their division, and then most importantly, or more importantly, ended up winning the championship, their first in franchise history. A group that's fun, a group that's going to look a lot different. Some of these guys ended up getting money elsewhere in free agency. Will they probably fall a bit during the course of the regular season? I'd expect them to, but still, fresh off of their first championship, probably doesn't matter to them as long as they make the playoffs, right? And then the team that had the biggest rise in the course of the regular season, from the season prior to this past one, is the Vancouver Canucks, as they went from 83 points to 109. That was good enough for a 26-point improvement as they went from being well outside of the playoffs to contending for the top spot in the Western Conference President's Trophy. Ultimately, they did settle for a Pacific Division title, but still a great year for the team. And you're hoping, for the sake of Vancouver fans, that they're able to have another good year and compete with teams like Edmonton for that top spot in the Pacific. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this past season? Some teams that rose a lot, some teams that fell a lot. I want to hear your thoughts on that all down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Hey, have a great night. And you go love hockey already. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.